listening to the Viva El Birdos podcast with Jake Wood, Gabe Simons, and Scott Plaza. The Viva El Birdos podcast.
Welcome into the Viva El Birdos podcast. My name is Jake Wood, and I write for VivaElBirdos.com. I am the host of the show, and I am joined by fellow writer Gabe Simons. If you enjoy this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. We are available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all of your favorite audio streaming platforms. Happy deadline day to you all. At the time of this recording, the Cardinals have yet to execute their first deal of the deadline, and there are about 20 or so hours remaining until 5 p.m. Central Time, whenever the deadline is to occur. Today's episode, we are going to talk about the Cardinals' recent performance. We will give our final thoughts on who we think stays or goes, and we will finish with one destination/fit for one player we like the most for the Cardinals, and one across the league we would also like to see. Gabe, how are you, sir? Happy deadline day to you.
Happy deadline day to you. I hope we can reach a day where we're like, what piece are we going to add, instead of looking forward to whatever prospects we're going to get. That'll be a great day. But we're probably a couple years away from truly buying at the deadline, and in the meantime, we'll have to settle for the future, which, you know, is exciting in its own way, certainly. And maybe even there's like no downside sometimes, because we trade Dustin May for the future. There's going to be no regret. That's always nice, right?
Yeah, you know, it's so much more fun to trade for Matt Holliday than it is to watch, you know, trading away Jordan Montgomery. So I'm right there with you. I think that, you know, the trade deadline, especially whenever you're a team that's in it, offers you that unique opportunity that allows like the front office to galvanize, you know, your current roster, and allows them to, it re-energizes them, because as we've seen, and this gives me a perfect segue into the current roster, as the season goes on, the guys get worn down, and you have to look for ways to continue to spark them. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games. What stands out to you the most about their recent performance, Gabe?
Well, let's start with the positives. The starting pitching has been very good. I mean, every game, not only like you want your starting pitchers to give you a chance to win. They've done more than that, honestly. They usually exit the game in the sixth-ish inning, usually only allowing one run, maybe two runs. Just so happens that their partner in crime, the offense, has decided to take the day off. And then when they hand the ball off to the bullpen, usually they're going to pad up the run total a little bit for the opposition. So the starting pitching has clearly stood out as the positive in the last week and a half. We might be subtracting from that, so we'll see if that continues. But, I mean, it's every game has been basically the same for the last 2 weeks, which is the starter puts a good game in, bullpen gives them the lead, offense never really shows up. And I'm really excited for the offense to please not need an error to score 5 runs.
I'm really glad that you like use that phrase, partner in crime, because if we could send like this 5 through 9 like area of the lineup down to like the Memphis County Jail, like I'd be all for that. You know, I put out this stat on X that like through the last 15, so last night Nolan Gorman had a 2 home run game down in AAA Memphis, and I said, you know, that would be that maybe we should pursue bringing that back up and kind of giving that another opportunity, because what you're seeing right now, 5 through 9, isn't working. He had as many home runs last night as the Cardinals' 5 through 9 hitters have had in the last 16 games now. That is an unfathomable lack of power and impact, and so it's not unwarranted to think that if Nolan Gorman finds some version of footing, because we know that the power is real and legit, it's the questions of contact and consistency that we have about it. Do you jump back to that? And especially if the Cardinals are intent on going down this seller's route, then what is there to lose to maybe seeing it one more time at the major league level?
I think with Gorman a little bit, and with Victor Scott, if they were playing better in AAA, I would think they would be swapped out by now, wouldn't they? Because I mean, the people who replace them are really not cutting it right now, and they have some measure of proven MLB success in the past that like a Nathan Church doesn't have, that a Blaze Jordan doesn't have, and maybe even if you don't believe in those two for the future, you hope you could trade them or something in the offseason. Unfortunately, especially with Victor Scott, he's just not hitting at all.
Yeah.
And Gorman has only recently picked it up. I feel like I would need to see his strikeout rate go to maybe 30% in Memphis before I call him up, because I mean it's
then
crazy.
You're ready to call him up.
No, it's still at like 38% right now.
No, in his last 10 games, his strikeout rate is only 30%.
I'm not talking about last 10 games. I need overall.
Okay. All right. Well, then you're moving the goalpost on me here, Gabe.
No, I didn't. I never suggested it was the last 10 games when I said that. I meant like his AAA stats need to, and in general, I don't know. I need a little more than homers probably before I swap him and Blaze Jordan. I don't need much, but I do need a little bit more than homers, because right now he's got a very, very, very low BABIP, and I don't know if that's correlated with, like, is everything just a fly ball right now? I mean, which isn't like you want Gorman to hit fly balls, but like if everything that isn't a home run is an out, then that's going to be a tough to watch at the major league level too. Honestly, you just hope his home runs come with people on pace, because go ahead.
So this comes to us from our friend Cardinal Stats and Facts on X. Nolan Gorman's last 10 games in Memphis and 43 plate appearances. So granted, it is a smaller sample size, but it is the most recent relevant sample size that we have. He's batting .250 with a .372 on base and a .694 slug. So that's a 1.067 OPS. 5 home runs. His strikeout rate is 30.2%. His walk rate is 16.2%. And so, like, I don't know. To me, he's a lot closer to maybe struggling below, like, maybe not struggling is the wrong word, below average Nolan Gorman, as opposed, and I think Kyle Reese even made mention of this online too. He's a lot closer to below average Nolan Gorman than he is completely lost to the plate, no hope Nolan Gorman. So, like, and if we go back to the early part of the season before he fell off a cliff, no hope whatsoever, and was just, you kind of are hoping for more, but he's giving you something on both sides of the ball, really. Like, is that a tangible improvement in the lineup over what you've seen from a Blaze Jordan? Sure, Blaze is only striking out at a 12% clip, but he's also chasing outside of the zone at an extreme level, and he's not, like, producing high-quality contact either. And so it's also, like, while he's not striking out, he's also not providing you with the impact and like, the upgrade you're hoping for in terms of production.
Well, I think you're either talking to the right guy or the wrong guy for this question, because Blaze Jordan happens to be, unfortunately, my least favorite type of profile. The guy who swings at everything and doesn't walk. I do not like people who I feel that way about how I feel like most fans feel about the guys who strike out all the time, where it doesn't matter how good they are, they're always against the big strikeout guys. I'm not that way with the guys who never walk. But if they're struggling and never walking, then I really do not like watching that type of hitter, because I'm so frustrated when they swing at pitches they shouldn't be swinging at. And strikeout guys are a little bit misconstrued most of the time. They sometimes do that, but it's more that they just whiff a lot at pitches in the zone. That's normally Gorman's problem, more than it is chasing pitches. I know you remember all the pitches he chases, but
right,
it's hard. It's like hard to explain though, because when the Blaze Jordan swings at a pitch, he'll make contact. It'll just either be a foul or a weak ball, and I don't know. So I am fully like on board with the idea of having Gorman swap with him. I think we need like another person on the podcast who is anti-Gorman to represent the fans truly, because I think most people listening to this are like mad we're even bringing up Gorman, just because they're done with him, right?
I think how I would structure it is I would recall Gorman, I would designate Nelson Velasquez for assignment, and then move Blaze Jordan into that Nelson Velasquez role where he can kind of bounce between first and third DH as kind of that right-handed counter to that Nelson Velasquez is kind of served in. That's kind of how I would envision doing
More
it.
playing time than Nelson Velasquez.
Sure,
Absolutely.
yeah, with a little bit more consistent playing time. He doesn't have to be necessarily just a direct platoon option. Obviously, if you come across like a right-hander who is like fastball changeup heavy, maybe that's a day where you kind of protect Gorman from that type of profile that he struggled against mightily in the past. But that could be something where you can kind of consider it, because if you don't necessarily think that Nolan Gorman has any type of long-term future with this team, I could make an even greater case for Nelson Velasquez at this point. The sugar rush of his initial promotion has subsided. He's not providing any type of impact. He's kind of regressing back to who he's kind of been in his career. And so I don't know. Maybe I see more upside in Nolan Gorman than I do with a Nelson Velasquez at this point. I did want to touch on, because we saw Matthew Liberatore today do some really positive, exciting things. We talked about timing issues with Kevin on last week's pod, and it looked like he made that quality adjustment, and he was getting ahead of hitters too, which was really a big key for like his arsenal, because he can't just throw fastballs by guys. He has to be able to mix match and stay ahead of hitters and use his stuff effectively. The starting rotation, to your point, has not been the problem. It's really been the offense, and the bullpen have played their worst baseball at probably one of the most consequential points of the season that has led us to where we are right now, which, as again, referencing that we are posting this on deadline day, the Cardinals are actively looking to sell off their pieces. So let's jump into that element now. Our final. Let's give our final thoughts on who stays and who goes, and this will be kind of centered around names who have been floated out there. We'll start with the rentals, and then we'll kind of work our way towards players with more control, and maybe who. So, Dustin May. He stays or goes?
He goes. I think to use a very I hesitate to use this word because it's a kind of a funny word to use in this context, but a lot of people like to say it's malpractice if they don't do this. It's kind of malpractice if they don't trade Dustin May. I'll be honest. I'm not fully on board with that phrasing. It's just a thing people like to say online, but they need to trade Dustin May. I mean, there's going to be some return there of some interest. They could sign him in the offseason if they want to bring him back. Honestly, the idea of bringing him back on a qualified offer or something was like, a nice idea, but that was more like we think we might make the playoffs, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think with that off the table, I don't think it's a very good argument. And yeah, I would definitely. I hope he's traded in 24 hours.
20 hours, 19 hours. Something like that. We're running out of time here. I'm in the same boat with you. I don't know that I'd go as far as to call it malpractice. I certainly think it would allow the Cardinals the opportunity to, stay in the mix longer, which would be good in terms of potentially selling tickets. But I don't know that many fans are truly buying into this team right now, given what they've seen recently. And I do think that there is enough of a market out there, and teams at this time of year are always desperate for at least competent, even starting pitching, but Dustin May is more than that. And so a lot of the reporting out there is that teams simply have to beat what that comp pick would be at the end of the first round, second round, somewhere in that range. Acquiring teams just have to beat that in order to acquire Dustin May. So I think that ultimately by 5 o'clock tomorrow, Dustin May will no longer be a St. Louis Cardinal. Ryan Stanek came out. Hey, man, he had some balls today. He really got out of that mess. Just threw that hard fastball right by Vlad Guerrero Jr. and got the out and got out of the inning. Do you think Ryan Stanek survives tomorrow, or do you think that he's on his way out?
The question, I said this on Twitter too, but the question is more, will somebody trade for Ryan Stanek, to me, which is probably yes. So I think he's gone. I think the only way he stays is if there's no interest in him, because I know he's been good since May, but statistically his numbers are just kind of like, not great. But I know teams like his swing and miss stuff, and they'll take a chance on him. Hope he happens to go on a run where he finds control for 2 months or whatever. But yeah, he's easily gone if there's any market for him at all to me. But I don't know if you think differently than that.
No, I'm with you. I think that Ryan Stanek winds up going. He has postseason experience. He's a guy who can get a big strikeout in a big moment, regardless if he walks the world or not. I know that's one of your least favorite things to watch, a pitcher coming out of the bullpen who walks the world. I understand. We all know, we're well aware of your qualms with Ryan Stanek, but I think that
everybody hates relievers who come in and walk guys, right?
No, I understand, but I think that it's less impactful whenever you also pair it with swing and miss stuff. Like when you think, not that Ryan Stanek is Blake Snell, a multi-time Cy Young Award winner, but it's that similar type of profile where yes, his command will waver at certain times, but he also has enough in the tank to be able to strike guys out if he gets himself into a jam and kind of keep it going. Just in one inning bursts. So that they're not exact 1-to-1 comps, but it's somewhat similar.
I think Stanek is not the hill to die on with why sometimes walks are not bad, because his overall numbers are bad. But we can continue.
Continuing on, JoJo Romero recovering from an appendectomy. Do you think that the aforementioned appendectomy, fun with alliterations, prevents him from being traded, or do you still think that JoJo Romero winds up finding himself on a contender today?
Do we know an important context? Do we know the timeline here for him?
There was no established timeline at this point.
It's not an arm injury, which
Correct.
I feel like that would be something that I could see scaring teams away. So depending on what kind of timeline he's got, I mean, it's really bad timing.
Let's do it. Let's play it conservatively and say September.
Okay. I mean, I feel like somebody would give something for a month of him, and for the playoffs, if they really need a lefty. But yeah, our market for him is definitely a lot worse than it would be if he was currently pitching, which really sucks. Maybe they, I don't know, maybe they bring him back and then just try to give him a 1-year offer for next year or something and be like, there's probably, there's a lockout. Do you want a guaranteed contract right now? I don't know. But I feel like they trade him if they can.
Yeah, I man, this is really boring that we just kind of continue to agree with each other. Hopefully we come to some sort of disagreement here soon, because
the guys are going to be free.
Yeah, I know, but you laid it out exactly as I would look at it. If a team is willing to give you something, then sure, jump on it, take it. But if there's really no offers out there for him, what does it hurt to give him a 1-year deal, because you know that he fits into the back end of your bullpen? As you're seeing currently, there is no in-house replacement for him in that role. And so, where he fits, the role that he pitches, and there's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal, especially for a reliever. And you can kind of look at him as that early Ryan Stanek, Phil Maton, Andrew Kittredge type, 1-year reliever to set up for, Riley O'Brien or whomever may be closing in that situation. I don't see the harm in it. I know that most general fans are just clamoring for them to trade everyone and restock this and continue moving forward. But I still think that there is value in JoJo Romero, and especially for the on the Cardinals for next season. Lars Nootbaar is another name that has been coming up frequently, and Derek Gould's reporting today that the team is open to trading him, but obviously the acquiring team is going to have to give to get. This is not a situation where they are just going to give him away. So do you see that Lars Nootbaar is traded by the deadline?
I'm going to guess no. I think this is one, more than probably any other player we'll talk about, would be really helpful to know what kind of offers are being thrown out for Lars Nootbaar. It would be really, really helpful, because I am not convinced necessarily, based off the fact that he's been kind of okay in the last 2 months. He's got some injury problems. I don't know that this would be like you might be able to get more in the offseason. Like even though like there's a premium on the deadline, sometimes I don't know if that works as the same with hitters as it does with like relievers and pitchers, but maybe he has like a really strong August and September, and then you could say, hey, it was his foot. That's why he hasn't lived up to his X stats. I'm not saying that's a likely scenario necessarily, but if I feel like the Cardinals are going to probably set too high of a bar for teams to reach to trade him. Whether that's right or wrong is up to how people think of Lars Nootbaar, but I don't think they're going to trade him just to trade him for sure. And my gut feeling is just that they'd rather hold on to him for a little bit longer.
I think the prudent thing might be to hold on to him into the off season, but we've seen reports that Philly has been tied to him. That the Yankees, although since they acquired Luis Garcia Jr. earlier, that like interest may subside some or at least need for a left-handed bat. We've seen the Astros tied to him. So the fact that there are multiple teams out there that have expressed interest in a Lars Nootbaar, I think it makes it more likely that his potentially to go. So I will say that I think he is traded by the deadline.
Yes, we got a difference of opinion. That's what we wanted. Yes.
Riley O'Brien is the next name that we're going to bring up. 4 years of control, 31-year-old closer. Was an all-star this year. Started out the season really strong, carried over a really strong half of 2025 into this year, but has kind of been up and down a little bit for the last 2 or 3 months. Still, converting saves, still doing the job, getting the job done, and is still one of the top, like in terms of saves, closers in the National League. And so, do you think that a team is willing to pony up for a Riley O'Brien to really push it all in at the deadline?
No, not really. I think teams probably view him as a seventh inning, eighth inning guy that they would get. Not that those guys can't get decent prospect turn in return, but I don't see a team viewing him as the elite of the elite. I don't know if the Cardinals are going to hold out for some team thinking that, but his underlying stats are just like, not even just his underlying stats, his ERA, like everything's kind of just more in the high leverage, but not necessarily ninth inning guy that you want, because he's got a 351 FIP, 350 ERA. Sorry, I didn't take into account today. 343 ERA, 346 FIP, 393 XFIP. His xERA is 449. Wow. Oh, okay. So yeah, I don't see a team. He would be a good test case on how the Bloom regime operates, quite frankly, because it'd be even easier now if Mozeliak was running things. Yeah. Because they tend to not. They were never really rebuilding, but they didn't really trade relievers with any sort of control ever that I can remember. And O'Brien does have a significant amount of control, and I feel like if he's traded, we'll be like, oh, we got a lot. Yeah. And I just don't see a team giving that kind of return. I'd love to be wrong. Same thing with Nootbaar. If some team is just giving us either borderline top 100 prospects for these guys, sure. I'm all aboard. I'm skeptical about other teams being willing to part with those prospects for more good than great players.
I kind of wonder if the Cardinals would be able to get a return similar to what the Marlins were able to get a couple of years ago for Tanner Scott. I don't think that like Mason Miller type deal is an accurate comp, but I do wonder if like a Tanner Scott return, and at the time Tanner Scott was I believe he was a rental going to San Diego, but
he had a 118 ERA at the deadline, or who did he go to?
Not in terms of performance, but in terms of return is what I'm comparing. Is like, could he get because offsetting some of what the numbers are, but the amount of years of control remaining. So like, could they get what eventually inevitably becomes a top 50 prospect in a Robbie Snelling? And I don't recall off the top of my head what the other two or three pieces were that went in return. Do you have that pulled up?
Miami?
Yeah. Miami to San Diego.
Oh, that was less control though. because that was
Yes.
2 years ago. Oh, okay, but that's not a good comp. He's closer to Mason Miller than he is to Riley O'Brien. I'll be honest, or he was, I should say, because he had a 1.75 ERA in all of 2024.
Yeah,
Three.
I'm not talking about direct comps in terms of like what the ERA looks like, but what I'm talking about is like I don't think that Riley O'Brien can get you a Mason Miller type return, but could he get you a similar return to what a high performing rental closer could get you?
Oh, I see. I mean,
because I think if they got a similar return to what Tanner Scott was able to get for the Marlins return, I think they would probably jump on that deal.
I just think Tanner Scott is on a different tier than Riley, or Tanner Scott was, and he still is kind of, but I think he's just on a different tier than Riley O'Brien. I don't know. Like I said, you never know.
Just throwing something out there.
No, I get the. I mean, but yeah, he's got. Yeah, he was really good at the time. So I don't know.
Moving along, Pedro Pages, everyone's favorite backup catcher. Do you think that Pedro Pages stays or goes? The market is said to be really strong for catchers, and specifically when I think about catchers for this specific fit, I'm thinking of like the Yankees, who are looking for somebody, a right-handed complement to an Austin Wells, somebody who, and some of the speculation that's come out of New York is they're looking for a guy who handles a pitching staff really well and is a right-handed complement. And you would have to think that potentially there would be a slight increase in offensive performance playing his home games at Yankee Stadium as opposed to Busch Stadium.
Yeah.
And if Ryan Jeffers is not available and the Twins have already shown that they're not looking to sell, they're buying at the deadline. So the all of the reported like ideal targets, like Hunter Goodman's probably not moving, Ryan Jeffers isn't moving. I doubt that the Orioles want to trade Adley Rutschman within the division. So like you start going down the list, would they rather pay for a Tyler Stevenson as a rental, or would they rather have Pedro Pages for the next 3 years to kind of like set in that backup position? Like I just kind of wonder how the Yankees specifically are looking at a guy like Pedro Pages.
I mean, if the Cardinals were able to capitalize on the current situation to trade Pedro Paz for something of value, I would be thrilled. And I say that as a Pedro Paz defender and fan.
Yep.
But I've never thought of him as a guy who would be able to get anything much in a trade because of the fact that his offense is non-existent. Do I think he's going to go or stay?
This one's really tough.
It is tough because I feel like it's almost I don't want to say it's equally as likely, but I feel like Jimmy Crooks getting traded is almost equally as likely as Pedro Paz getting traded.
Sure.
So I don't know which one to pick. Crooks would get you in the situation where they trade him a lot more, I think, because he's unrealized potential, and Pedro Paz, even if you're really optimistic on him, is not potential at all. I guess because of the lower price, teams would be more. I'll say yes for Pedro, just because I think he doesn't really have a future role, except for if they just want to keep him as a backup as they cycle through options at catcher. And you're not going to get many opportunities to trade him. And I think teams are more willing to fork over, like, I don't know, the 17th best prospect in their system, or I'm just throwing a name out of the hat.
Sure.
Than they would for whatever the price would be for Crooks. Because I would hope that despite his start, they would still have a relatively high ask for Jimmy Crooks. And that would probably be like a comparable third baseman prospect or outfield prospect.
Yeah.
Maybe not that's major league ready, but,
Sure.
something that would help another part of your offense.
And I agree with you on the stance that, like, I think that the price would be not significant. I don't know if significant is the right word, but like much less than what it would cost to get a Jimmy Crooks. I also think that the Cardinals are inclined to start thinning out some of the catching at the upper levels because Leo Bernal, by all measures, is near major league ready, and I think that he is the actual like inevitable heir behind the plate, along potentially with Araniel Rodriguez, who is at the next level lower. Will probably be at AAA for a majority of next season. So you need to start having more definitive answers on the guys that are here currently. I think that starts with a Pedro Pages now. I don't think that the Cardinals will be as inclined to move a Jimmy Crooks. You look at some of the underlying data; it suggests that he's hitting the ball hard. He's making quality of contact. I'm certain that Busch Stadium and other places. I can't say it's like only due to ballpark factors, but you look at some of what has happened at Busch Stadium as probably knocking down some of the production that he is at least expected to have in his numbers. And so I think that as far as Jimmy Crooks goes, if somebody's willing to give you, like you said, a third base equivalent for him, basically 6 years of control, ready, major league ready, and just doesn't fit with their current team, and you are able to swap assets in that way, it makes a lot of sense. But I don't think the Cardinals are particularly inclined to move on from him just yet, just because the sample size is still very small. We have a large enough sample size and a Pedro Pages to know pretty well exactly what he is, and I think that having those types of answers makes it a lot easier for this Cardinals regime to stomach a move of a Pedro Pages. Going from Pages to another catcher, Ivan Herrera is a name that has been bandied about quite a bit, at least amongst fans. Who knows, again, I'll reference back to Derek Gould's piece on STL Today. Ivan Herrera is a name that has been asked about quite a bit by acquiring teams, but the Cardinals do not appear to be inclined to move him at the deadline. With that information being said, Gabe, does Ivan Herrera stay or go?
He stays. I think one reason is if you don't really view him as a catcher, he doesn't actually solve the catcher log jam. Like, if you trade Ivan Herrera, you're not really...
Correct.
You know what I mean?
But he's still getting 60% of the starts at the major league level currently.
Right, but I mean, I just think that because he hasn't thrown out a runner since 2024. I mean, I would be surprised if
I don't particularly view him as a catcher, but that's not to say that the Cardinals, with like the game calling aspect that's improving, and all of those other intangible things, do they still think that there's a worthwhile catcher in there, or are they pretty well sold on this isn't a catcher also?
Right, and I don't think if any fan is out there wondering. I don't think any other team views him as a catcher. I'm going to be honest. I don't think whatever we get in a trade will be for his bat. It won't be because he can stand behind the plate sometimes. So, unfortunately, if that was the case, we could probably get a lot, and we could still get a lot, to be clear. But I mean, I think he stays just because I don't feel like he's. I mean, what has he got? 3 years of control after this, or something like that?
I think he's first year arbitration eligible this offseason. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, you would really have to get a very, very good return for Herrera, and it will have to almost be so good that Cardinals fans will be like, well, they had to take that, and that is such an impossibly high bar to set a return that I just don't see it happening. And like I said, I think if you're going to try to clear out your catcher log jam, you have to clear out. It's kind of weird because I didn't think I would think this at the deadline before, but given all the rumors about how many people want catchers, I sort of feel like it'd be a missed opportunity if they don't trade Crooks or Paz at this point, because I don't know if you're going to get a better opportunity to trade a catcher. And I'm just hoping they can. I mean, if they really nail who to keep and to maximize the value of whoever they trade, it could really be a difference maker in this organization for the next few years, honestly.
Yeah, conventional thinking usually catchers are better served to be dealt in the off season than they are in season, just because getting to know a pitching staff and all of that. I would assume that even if they don't move a Pages now, that can be something that can be revisited in the off season. That's not to say that I'm sure that 90% of Cardinals fans wouldn't be more excited that it happens today of all days rather than waiting an extra 2 months. But For me, for Ivan Herrera specifically, like you mentioned, short of like George Kirby's name has been being thrown out there, I don't think that the Mariners are going to deal him. But like, if the Mariners came to you and was like, "Hey, Ivan Herrera for George Kirby, what do you say?" I'd have to think really long and hard about that. And you know,
Hancock is name thrown out.
His name's been thrown out there too. Yeah, I wouldn't do it for Hancock. I don't think that he has the same kind of ceiling as Kirby, and I think that if you're moving in Ivan Herrera, it's for a starter that you can put at the top of your rotation immediately. I think that Emerson Hancock probably fits more into the middle of the rotation than the top. So that wouldn't be something that would be enough for me in my eyes.
Right, and that's what I was saying though. Like, I don't think the Mariners will think this, but I think it would need to be Hancock and. If they're going to make that trade, and I don't know who the and is, by the way, but that's just that's where I stand with, because that's like the biggest rumor on it. I don't know if that started because a fan just wants it to happen or what, but yeah, Hancock for Herrera is like the biggest rumor going on.
It's because Hancock and Herrera were names that have both been floated out there, and also like each player fits the other team's needs, and so it's a really easy, lazy like connection, though. I don't think that Hancock is exactly what the Cardinals are looking for, want going forward. Let's finish off this episode with one Cardinals player fit you'd like to see on another team who could go, and then one player fit just across the board who is available out there that you would like to see join another team. So I'll let you start with the Cardinals player and what team you would like to see him land on, and then I will start on the player across the league to maybe help give you a little bit of an idea of where I'm going with this.
Okay. So let's see. Let me just see something here. Okay. You know what? I will root for, we'll say, let's see. Well, I'll root for Riley O'Brien to be on the White Sox, because that'd be fun, and because that means we got a really good return, quite honestly. So that's my, and I'm not even like all aboard trading Riley O'Brien, but I know that if we do trade him, we got a good return. So, and the White Sox, I think, have a fairly good farm. So
yep, that'd
make me pretty happy.
So you don't think he's ultimately being traded, but you would root for him to go to the White Sox, is what you.
So how about this? This is more my take with Riley O'Brien. I'm kind of rooting for him to be traded because I trust that we will get a great return if we do trade him.
Sure.
Like a really great return. And that my suspicion is that teams won't reach the asking price that Bloom asked for Riley O'Brien. That's why I don't think he'll be traded. But if he is traded, that means we got our asking price.
I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah, because that's why that's basically my, or I could do the same thing with Newbar with some team, because that means that an asking price has been reached, which means we're getting a really great return, making it worth trading them. So I guess those are my hopes really more than anything, is that the guys who we don't have to trade are traded, because that means we got a very good return.
Right. For me, my player and fit, I want to see Dustin May go to the Phillies, because I think that not only, like, they're in desperate need for back end of the rotation help, and I think that he would fit right into that Philly culture. He's fiery. He's got that strong nosed personality on, like, he's a bulldog on the mound. And like I said, he pitches with that fire and intensity, and I think that really fits in well with what Philly fans really enjoy watching. And I think that he makes a perfect fit in Philadelphia, and they're still a team that is looking for starting pitching as we're watching, teams and fits kind of start to be put together. And, speaking of teams and fits, we watched Kevin Gausman go to the Chicago Cubs earlier this evening. Excuse me. So that tells me that the Toronto Blue Jays are open for business, selling off pieces. The Brewers are a team that frustrate me to no end as a Cardinals fan. I think they should go out and get George Springer to add to their offense. You talk about a guy that rises to the occasion in October. What's the biggest complaint for this Brewers team is the fact that they can't get over the hump when it comes to getting into the playoffs. And there are I can't think of any better playoff performers that could potentially be available than George Springer, and putting him in the outfield, whether it be in a corner or DH most days, and giving that team that experience and that capability of getting the big hit in the big moment in the postseason when it matters most.
Okay, I mean, that's a good. I mean, I will probably. I mean, especially in comparison to the Cubs, I'll probably be rooting for the Brewers a little bit because they certainly deserve to win. I mean, they've played well enough that they kind of deserve to win a World Series at this point.
Well, the fact that they didn't do Tarek Skubal and paired him at the top of the rotation with, Jacob Mizorowski and Kyle Harrison, like that would have been totally ideal. But, I feel like this is another way where they wouldn't have to give up anything super significant from their farm system and fill a long-standing need now that is postseason performers for them.
Okay, so I'm supposed to pick a player to go from one team to a different team that isn't the Cardinals.
Correct. No, not in the division, just across the league. I would like to see this player go. Like, if you wanted to see, I want to see Mason Miller go to the Yankees, kind of thing.
Okay, I don't know if this is fitting the spirit of your question, but my wish is, as somebody who will probably be following the Angels more closely than any other team because I was a Mosaic defender for so long, I'm looking for them to get rid of all their players, basically. I'm looking for Zach Neto to be traded. I'm looking for Jose Soriano to be traded because their biggest weakness, so to speak, has been that they've never been committed to a rebuild. And I'd be interested to see John Mosaic under a true rebuild because I know Artie Moreno has been partially preventing that or completely preventing that, really, from reporting anyway. And I just that'd be fascinating to watch from the outside looking in because I want to see what that looks like.
So to fit more of the spirit of my question, let's pick Zach Neto specifically. Where do you think Zach Neto would fit? Like, what team would he fit best on?
I mean,
Boston has been the long rumored. Now, well, okay, but let's be realistic.
Put him at third base. He can't play defense at short.
Let's be realistic. The Cardinals are not trading for Zach Neto.
I mean, that'd be nice though. I mean,
I'll throw it out there. Boston has been the long rumored team to be most heavily in on Zach Neto, and they have a significant hole at shortstop.
I'm anti-Boston, so I can't root for that.
Okay.
No, I know. Here's my issue at the moment with your question. It's a good question. This is making me realize how Cardinals focused I am as a fan. Mm-hmm. I do not pay that much attention to other teams' needs and what they're going to trade at deadline. So I don't even know who needs a shortstop or an infielder off the top of my head, at least, without looking into it.
Boston.
I don't like Boston. I'm sorry. I'm not rooting for Boston to get players. I know they got Contreras, who I like, but Boston has won enough. They do not.
What about the Twins? Would you root for the Twins to get Zach Neto? Because right now, currently, they have Ryan Kreidler playing shortstop. Again, it's not a perfect fit because Kalen Culpepper is close to Major League ready there in Minnesota. But
yes, I'm in favor of I like the Twins.
Okay.
They're one
Zach
of the teams
Neto to the Twins. Gabe's pick.
Sort of soft root for from afar, even though they never quite deliver on any potential. So,
great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Viva Alberto's podcast. Don't forget to rate, review, and hit that subscribe button so you're notified every Monday morning whenever a new episode is made available for you. For Gabe Simons, my name is Jake Wood, and we will talk to you all next week whenever we have Jeff Jones of the Belleville News Democrat on. We are going to do a postmortem on the trade deadline, all the happenings, and all the information that Jeff is able to collect from that. Have a great day, St. Louis, and let's go Cards!